What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. And this one will be going over my top 5 values at the tight end position this year in fantasy football. I've just recently finished up my projections. I'll be getting those up either today or tomorrow. And it's been fun diving through those and seeing which players sort of stand out in terms of where I have them ranked versus ADP. And I've kind of gotten a lot of value out of it, and I think you guys are too. This is my 7th video in this series. I've already done the best and worst values at all 3 other major positions: quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. So please do take the time to go watch those. I think they're pretty useful. If you have any comments, let me know. Any questions? Love interacting with you guys. Love sort of seeing where we disagree and where we can come together on stuff. So yeah, it's super exciting. If this is your first time on the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. If you get anything out of the video, please do take a minute to like it. It really helps with the algorithm. And like I said, if it's your first time here, please take a minute to subscribe to the channel. We'll get way more videos like this, and hope I can help you do better this season in fantasy. So yeah, with that, let's get into the first player. So one player I found myself to be actually extremely high on is Dallas Goedert. I've got him ranked as my tight end 3 compared to a consensus of tight end 6. I think a lot of people are going to be pretty shocked to see me having Goddard ranked in the top 3, because I think for the general consensus, it's a pretty clear top 3 in that it goes Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson. But I actually have Hawkinson ranked as my 4th tight end. I've got Dallas Goedert ranked one spot ahead of him at 3. And I think that's because I'm reasonably projecting this offense to be really consolidated with their target share. I think most of the targets in this offense are going to go between A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and there's not really anybody else that's going to command too much of a target share there. On top of that, Goddard's just a super efficient wide receiver. He averages plenty of yards per catch. He has a really great catch rate. He's really great in open space, and I think that's something we haven't really seen him do yet, but I don't think it's necessarily an indictment on him, as he hasn't scored too many touchdowns. I have him projected for 6.4 touchdowns this season, so it would be a career high for him, but I think there's no reason for me not to expect that to happen. I think in general, this Eagles offense is going to be a little bit more pass heavy as well. They lost Miles Sanders. They brought in DeAndre Swift, so they're going to be a little bit more. The running back skill set definitely lends itself to being more pass heavy. I think that they're also going to look to try and keep Jalen Hurts a little bit healthier now that he's locked up on a long-term deal, maybe try and reduce his running just a little tiny bit. So I think this offense is going to throw more than they did last season. I would expect that to mean that they might throw for more touchdowns as well. We saw Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders steal a ton of those in the red zone, and a lot of those could shift towards Dallas Goedert. And I'm only giving Dallas Goedert a 20% target share. I think he could easily beat that. He had a 19.6% target share, I believe, last year. And I don't see any reason to assume that he can't keep that reasonable pace up, and doing that gives him over 1,000 yards, over 80 catches, and 6 touchdowns. So I think that Dallas Goedert's going to be a really great difference maker at the tight end position this year, and you don't really have to pay that much for him. So he's been a guy that I've been drafting a ton of in the middle rounds. Next up, I've got David NJOKU. I've got him ranked as my tight end 5, despite a tight end 9 ADP, and I think that there's a lot of reasons to be excited about David NJOKU. He projects to be the number 2 target in an offense that can really only get better from what we saw from it last season. The Browns' offense was absolutely putrid. Deshaun Watson, although I don't think he's going to really bounce back to truly elite form, I think he's only going to be better than he was last year. And I'm also not a very huge believer in Elijah Moore or Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think they're both decent players, but I don't see either one of them overtaking NJOKU as the number 2 target in this offense. We've also seen Watson with a history of leaning on this tight end. We saw him have a couple really good games with NJOKU last season as well. And actually, in points per game last season, David NJOKU was the tight end 7. I don't see any reason to assume he couldn't keep that up. We know David NJOKU missed a little bit of time last year, but obviously this quarterback and his passing game should be better than what we saw from them last season. A well-practiced and healthy Deshaun Watson should be better than what we saw from Jacoby Brissett and Watson last season. I think really there's honestly a chance that maybe Amari Cooper gets older even. Maybe we see him slow down. David NJOKU has an outside shot to be the number 1 target in this offense, which is certainly not something you can say for a lot of tight ends. And NJOKU's an athletic, just absolute freak. He's super athletic. He's got plenty of ability to do a lot with the ball in his hands after the catch. I think he's a really talented player, actually, and he's got enough of an athletic profile that he could have an outlier season. So I think having him ranked tight end 5 is pretty reasonable, but I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him put up a bit of a spike and fluke season and really maybe crack that top 3. I'm not projecting that, but I think tight end 9 is just way too low of an ADP for him. Next up, I've got Chig Okonkwo. I've got him ranked as my tight end 8, despite an ADP of tight end 13. And he's just another player who profiles for the number 2 target in an offense. That's generally something that we really want to see out of our tight ends. In general, if a tight end gets top 2 target share on his team, they're going to have a really good shot at being fantasy relevant. Chig Okonkwo was the 3rd highest rated receiving tight end last season as a rookie per PFF, and that's something that's really impressive for a rookie given how much we've seen it's difficult for receiver or tight ends to adjust to the NFL game. And he can do a lot with the ball in his hands down the field and after the catch. He's a super athletic player as well. I really liked what I saw from him on the field last season. I don't think he was utilized enough. I think the same could be said for Treylon Burks in this offense. But if this receiving core stays as is, it's Treylon Burks, Okonkwo, and they've got Nick Westbrook-Akina and Kyle Phillips. So Chig will be the number 2 target in this offense. He's actually a pretty good player, and Tannehill's a decent enough quarterback to make this passing offense do enough. So if this depth chart stays as is, I'd just be absolutely shocked to see Chig not break that top 10 at the tight end position. And I think that if he actually breaks out as a year 2 tight end, there's certainly a much higher ceiling here than tight end 8. Up next, I've got Greg Dulcich. I've got him ranked as my tight end 9, despite an ADP of tight end 15. And honestly, he really put together a lot of quality film last season. I liked what I saw on the field from him. He was really explosive with the ball downfield. He scored a couple times, and he just honestly, for how bad this Broncos offense was, he was a bit of a bright spot for them. That was as a rookie, and we all know how difficult it is for rookie tight ends to adjust in the NFL. So I would only expect him to be better this next season. Sean Payton has absolutely raved about what he saw about his performance in camp so far. He mentioned him in the likes of Jimmy Graham and Alvin Kamara in terms of how they want to use him in this offense. They want to be a guy. They want to use him as a guy that they get set up with mismatches and really abuse the athletic profile that he has, and really want to get him the ball as much as possible. The Broncos offense can only improve from what it did last season. I actually expect them to be a pretty decent offense this year. And on top of that, he's got a legitimate shot to be the number 2 target in this offense. I have him projected to be the number 3 target behind Sutton and Judy, but we haven't seen a lot from Sutton in the last several years. I think it's more than possible that Sutton really just sort of falls off here, and that really would open up a door for Greg Dulcich to be the number 2 target in this offense behind Judy. And if Dulcich is as good as I think he is, and this Broncos offense is much better, I think there's a real high ceiling for Dulcich this year. So I'm interested in him. He's a guy that I've been getting a lot late, and you don't really have to pay much for him. So he's definitely a guy that should be drafted, and if you leave your draft with him as your tight end 1, I don't think you'll be too upset. And last, I've got Evan Ingram here. I've got him ranked as my tight end 6, despite an ADP of tight end 8. And I'm just really high on the Jaguars offense as a whole this season. I think we're going to see Trevor Lawrence take that next step forward. And I'm actually projecting Evan Ingram to finish 4th on this team in targets behind Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones. So even doing that, he still stats out as my tight end 6. And there's plenty of unknowns that give him upside beyond that. There's certainly the possibility that Calvin Ridley just is washed. He hasn't played football in a long time. It's possible that he's just not the number 1 target in this offense. It's also possible that Evan Ingram could earn more targets than Zay Jones as well. So there's a world out there where Evan Ingram ends up as the number 2 target in this offense. I'm not projecting that, but on top of that, there's also a world where we see a really huge offensive boost to this team and Trevor Lawrence throws for 45, 50 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to do that. I'm projecting him for 35 this season, so not 40 plus at all, but I think that's within this range of outcomes, and that means we could see a 10 touchdown season out of Evan Ingram, and if that were to happen, he'd absolutely be a top 3 tight end. So Ingram's athletic enough, he's a talented enough player, and he's in a really good offense. So even though there's a lot of target competition for him, I think that this offense is more than good enough to support that. I think it's going to be a pretty consolidated target share between those 4 guys and then Travis Etienne. So I don't think we're going to have to really worry about too many other ancillary pieces stealing targets. And Ingram's a really great player. I think he's going to have a really good season. So I'm more than comfortable leaving my draft with him as my only tight end this year. So that'll do it for my 5 best values at the tight end position this season. Up next, I'll be giving you guys my 5 worst values at the tight end position, and then I'll move on to some draft strategy and more mock draft stuff. And if you have any video recommendations you want, let me know. If you have any questions you want, maybe I can do videos on those guys for you guys. If there's any player breakdowns or anything you want videos on, just let me know. I'll try and get what I can. So yeah, I've been loving making these videos. If you got anything out of it, please do take the time to like the video. It really helps with the algorithm. And if you first time on your channel here, please do take a minute to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and you'll get more videos like this going forward. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll catch you next time.